Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Going forward from here, there will be lots of spoilers in our Fae and Alchemy coverage of Book 1, Quicksilver by Callie, Hart. So consider this your spoiler warning. We, as with all the other previous chapters coverage so far, expect that you've read the entire book. So yeah, here we go.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
Yeah, tonight's drink of the episode is called Marked. I'm going to show you right here. Here it goes. And I don't know if you can see on the top, we have 2 floating dehydrated lemon wheels. 2 is deliberate, and the drink being named Mark and it being red, also deliberate. We have Mother's Day coming in this weekend as well. And so I wanted something that really spoke to Saeris, and also previous episode I talked about giving her a whiskey drink. And I thought red, something kind of light, something bubbly for Mother's Day would be good. It is whiskey based. You really want to use, it's important with this drink of the episode that you use a high quality whiskey. You're also going to have a little bit of lemon lime soda in there, which is optional if you want it to be more on the forward facing with the more whiskey flavor. You can omit the lemon lime soda and use a soda water, like a sparkling soda, or however you want to do that. You can do it straight up, but that's mostly grenadine, fresh lemon juice, Irish whiskey specifically, and a lemon lime soda. And so what that looks like here is this nice red color, symbolic obviously of Saeris being marked by Kingfisher. Yes. And blood.
She's using the word but we mean bit.
Yes, we do mean bit. Yeah.
Yes, her being bit.
So definitely going to get spicy this episode and excited to keep it going. But cheers.
Cheers. It's beautiful.
We're kind of floating around. We got a couple different places that we're going. We're going to Heat of Battle, and we're going to get into it now with exploring a deep dive of chapters 26 through 30 of Quicksilver by Callie, Hart. So whether you're reading along with us or just here for the book talk, we are glad that you're here.
Chapter 26 is titled Ash and Cinder, and they are still in Ballad at this time. And Saeris wakes up to Fisher screaming. They're in separate bedrooms. Her bedroom's pitch black. There's like furniture everywhere. She doesn't even remember how she got into the room before she fell asleep. So she gets up and tries to like feel her way around the room. Trips over Onyx, of course. But since Onyx is white, she can actually see him in the pitch black, and they guide themselves into Fisher's room. And he's laying there on top of the sheets, just have his pants on, so shirtless, and his eyes are open, so he's not having a nightmare. He is in this catatonic state where he can't move, but his body's convulsing, and he is telling her that she needs to go away, basically pleading with her, like, please leave now. Like, there's nothing you can do. And he's like saying it'll stop, but his body keeps like convulsing. And Saeris is like, no, wait, I'm going to go get a healer. I'm going to go get some help. And he's like, no, it's going to stop. You have to leave. And then she's like, no, I'm not going to leave you because, I'm just going to go to sleep next door and listen to you screaming all night. It'll be fine. And he then asks like, okay, well, get me some water. I'll drink it later. And then they have this intimate moment where Fisher is completely vulnerable. He physically cannot move. Saeris kind of gets behind him on the bed, props him up, and she tells him she's not going to leave him. And if he ever used the oath throughout this night to make her leave, then she will hate him. She'll make his life miserable. So they just hung out for 4 hours while he screamed and convulsed. And the rest of this chapters was a lot to digest because Fisher asks Saeris to give her something real. And she realizes the reason why he's acting like this is because the Quicksilver is literally forcing him into this weird state. And he needs something tangible to hold on to. So she recalls her memories from Zilvar. These aren't happy memories. She goes over like her dad's death, and he died when she was 2. And there's a lot of details, and the whole story with her mother, how she was a prostitute, and really the disgusting things that she had to do to survive, because that's all Zavarin is survival. And people hated her. Like, her death
Yeah.
was gruesome. It was hard to digest here.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, too, the moment that we haven't had yet is Kingfisher actually having a moment to get to know Saeris. Because at this point, he's kind of not allowed that to happen. I think that as a defense mechanism for himself, kind of, maybe even subconsciously, and also for her, there hasn't been a moment of vulnerability like this so far in this book. So this is the first kind of moment that's really Kingfisher at a really weak point physically, and him being truly seen for what this Quicksilver is doing to him. And Ren's kind of hinted at this quite a bit, but she's, Saeris at this point had never really seen kind of what went on. So this is the first instance of that. And she feels finally pretty comfortable telling him about herself and what's going on here. Obviously, from a storytelling standpoint, this is a critical time where you're getting to know Saeris even more. You're getting some more backstory of hers. You're understanding her more. It's a moment for these two main characters to have, again, this moment of vulnerability between them. But there's Saeris's mom, and this is what I was trying to figure out through this point. I'm trying to figure out who is more Fae for Saeris or has more magic, not Fae, of lineage. This was where we're getting the understanding of what happens to her mother, and we know her father passed when she was 2, but we have no backstory on him still. We really don't know anything about her lineage or bloodline.
So you're right. We don't know much about the father. We get more backstory on her mother. And I think that's important too, to your point. Maybe that's where her bloodline is, where she gets more of the Fae type magic from. Iris is her name. So, which is very similar to Saeris. So maybe in giving her a name, that's kind of like a hint of we need to track her backstory and her lineage to see where that goes. She worked out of the House of Callie 5 days a week to make ends meet, and most of her patrons were guardians, which is disgusting.
Shocking?
The people that are supposed to protect. No, absolutely not. The people that are supposed to protect, right? The citizens, they're the ones using and abusing. So, which we've already seen that the guardians are not honest and not they don't have the most morals. So this is just, Saeris has more of a distrust here. And she learned that at an early age because her mother had a prostitute basically right after her father died. From 2 years old to in her 20s, or when Saeris' mom died, she had to face all of the hardships of living in the third and having a mother as a prostitute. But Iris didn't want Saeris to be like her. At least, that's pretty admirable to want a better life for your daughter. So that's where Elroy comes in, and Iris made Elroy promise that when Saeris was of age, which is 10 years old, that he would take her in as an apprentice so she would have a future for herself. And this is where we also see that he literally took care of Hayden because, it's not like she was prostituting half the day. It was literally she was gone or she was helping rebels. So she wasn't at the house. So she had to, with Elroy, she had to take care of Hayden, feed him, and then in her free time, learn how to fight and learn how to steal. So
no big
because
deal.
Hayden was essentially right. And that's where you see this attachment to Hayden. Literally, she had to protect him his entire life. And not just protect, but more provide for him, more like a mother would, because their mother wasn't physically present because she was trying to do her best. And then when she was passed, Saeris was all he had. So you get more of that, how she's really loyal to Hayden because that's all she's really known is to protect him.
Right. So Iris obviously starts running weapons through Saeris at a certain point because they realize that a kid run weapons is going to be safer all around for everybody. And Saeris is willing to do this. So she's going to help her family as much as she can. So she's running weapons with Iris and Elroy. Elroy, of course, had taken her when she was 10, but he would also come and fix things at their house, take care of Iris if she ever got beat up, which unfortunately in her trade happened. And he loved Saeris' mother. I still don't think this is enough to validate what the theory is that Elroy could be Kingfisher's dad. I actually think this furthers the argument that he wouldn't be, but that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong there, or maybe I just don't want that to happen. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I don't think Elroy is Kingfisher's dad. I think he's just there as a supporting character. I think he can be more important later on. I don't think there's any Fae hints. Like with Carrion, there were hints that he was Fae. He was the largest. He's, he's most intelligent, and he's like, he has
He's
this
young
radiance
and
to
the
him.
leader. Yeah, he's young and this leader of
Right,
everybody, and everyone just like falls in line. Why? You have
right.
to have something
But
stronger
Elroy
above you.
wasn't like that.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree with you.
Okay. All right. So there is a moment where her mother has like a turning point and she realizes she doesn't want to be treated poorly anymore. She's tired of how these guardians are treating her. So she stops having them. Like she's like, I'm not gonna service
Nope.
guardians anymore. It's not happening. Of course, at this point, that's not really allowed in the third. So what happened after that is they end up finding 2 knives that were barely 3 inches long on her person. She got stopped and searched randomly, it's air
Randomly.
quotes. And unfortunately, Saeris witnesses this, that she gets stopped randomly, her mother, and they slit her throat in the street. This is particularly graphic. She dies face down in the sand, and then these guardians, they pissed on her. They peed on her body. Saeris got Elroy, and the neighbors were even spitting on her, calling her all kinds of things because she was a prostitute. And Saeris and Elroy end up collecting her with Hayden, and they burn her the next day, which is the practice in this. It's a sign of respect. And there was just them three, no one else. They returned and home, and the guardians or someone had boarded up their home with an ex, meaning since she was a single mother and there were 2 kids, they're on the street now. Like, you don't get your home.
I think that Madra realized that there's rebellion in the third because she had the knives. Her house was actually a safe house that was used by different rebels. They would come and alternate and only stay for a little bit of time. So by saying it's plague ridden, meaning she has a justification to not providing resources, to shutting down houses, to closing off trade lines to protect the rest of the ward. But really, she's snuffing out the rebellion here. So I think that's why Saeris intentionally says Madra decided that they are quarantined.
Yeah, and that points to her fear of being overrun and overtaken by someone, and this idea that there could be still magic that she needs to get squashed, because she knows, of course, that there's Quicksilver there and that there's going to be different ways that magic is still existent in this area, but she doesn't want any of her people to know that. So this is another way of keeping them down for sure. Saeris and Hayden find like tavern attics to sleep in, different places that they live, use that term loosely, so that they can kind of continue to live and function. She continues to go to work at the forge with Elroy. Of course, we know that because that's where it picks up our portion of the story for her. And they just kind of managed. And this is what she's telling Fisher this whole time, because she's talking to him for 4 hours. So she's going on and on. She's telling her whole story. And he starts to come around a little bit, but he's listening. He was actively listening the whole time. And he says to her, my mother was killed too. So then he says, we have that in common, little Osha. And they fall asleep. So this tells me that he's known what Bellicon did, that he never believed that she died in childbirth. This is kind of a turning point in his character where I think he's known for a long time, even though it's revealed later for us that Bellicon slit her throat and he verbalizes it. He's known deep down for a long time that this happened to his mom. And that was an interesting turning point for me in that chapter as well, is that indication that, especially on a second read, I picked that up, that my mother was killed too, meaning she didn't die in childbirth. It wasn't like a natural death. She was killed. That's specific. Did you have any thoughts on that?
I think there are it's interesting as a second read that there are parallels between Saeris's mom and Fisher's mom, because she was a queen, but Saeris's mom was a prostitute, and they both still had to give their lives to the men that controlled them and demanded things from them, and ultimately their deaths were the same, being slit in the throat. So there's irony in that. There's a lot of sad, and it kind of brings their story full circle, because this is a bonding point for them, because they feel like they've individually had this sort of grief, but their mothers experienced the same tragic death, and that's something that they can continue to share now, that someone else feels a similar type of grief. And Fisher may have even seen it in her throat being slit.
Maybe.
Do we know that?
I hope not. We don't. We have no
No.
idea.
But Sarah saw her mother's throat being slit. I mean, imagine being a teenager and witnessing that. That's horrifying. And then
Yeah.
being pissed on.
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
there's no words.
I couldn't even imagine. No. But there are a lot of parallels. I thought that was very writing, but I didn't pick that
Yes.
up on the first read. It was definitely a second read through. I was like, oh right, she didn't die in childbirth, right? It's right here.
Yeah. So, like, chapter 27. Where are we, guys? We're in one bed in a nice little town, not in a war zone. So, we've got chapter 27 marked coming up. So, you guys need to mark your books because we've got, that was really cheesy. We have to mark our books because we have several peppers going on right here. I would say this is like the most peppery. There might be, you know, a little bit more here, but I think this is like, there's probably one more after this, but this is like a pretty multi-pepper chapter for sure.
Agreed.
That's it. That's all you have to say,
Yeah.
Michelle?
Well, I figured since this is another spicy chapter and you always read the spicy chapters, you
It's
would
up
have
to
me
me.
read this one.
We can work through it together.
Okay.
I'll get her off if you want. Chapter 27 marked. Let's get going. She wakes up in pitch darkness and they're essentially spooning, right? Because they fell asleep, which is good. This is a good thing that they fell asleep. And she has a feeling of Fisher behind her. She notes something really specific here, which is she's fell asleep next to enough people to know if they're awake or sleeping. I thought that was very interesting for her to have that awareness. Given her background, I think it makes sense because she's moved around a lot and she's been in a lot of situations where she would need to know something like that. She's a thief, right? So this is going to be playing into this idea that she's very, very aware of the other people around her. In this moment, this is also helpful. She notices that Fisher's awake and he's very still. He's opening his palms and kind of has them pressed to her ribs. And she's like, this is a turning point. She can either move into him at this point or move away. We have this moment where we're finally like, as readers, like, is this going to happen? Or what are we doing here? What's going on? Are we taking the plunge or not? What are we deciding to do? And Callie Hart doesn't leave us hanging for too long because she definitely arches into him. This starts to build. There's probably, I let my husband read this, by the way, and he didn't have the 400-page buildup. So he only had this chapter because I was like, oh, you need to read this chapter. I really love the way this is written, which, by the way, 10 out of 10, ladies, if you're not sharing this, or gentlemen, whoever's reading this, but if you're not sharing this with your significant other, you probably should be. And just saying, it's only going to help things. Right. So he's reading this and he's like, how many pages is this? Like, how much of this is going on? Because it gets quite graphic. So there's teasing, there's this before, there's a lot of dirty words. This is where she realizes that he can hear her mind speak. The events from the night prior, as we know, kind of altered their dynamic here. There's a level of comfort and vulnerability that's occurred that hasn't yet come to pass. And because of what she experienced with Kingfisher the night before and how she stayed with him through the night until they both fell asleep, leads to further vulnerability and a door opening that she's willing to allow to open. And she's scared. There's kind of a moment, and not of him. She's scared of being vulnerable, and she's just kind of like has her like fuck it moment where she's like, all right, whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to do it. It is what it is. Because she's kind of been hurt by him before because he's a little bit office, somewhat of an asshole, just a hair.
He's a huge asshole.
Yes, definitely. So she starts speaking in her mind the things that she wants. And he starts answering. What if this happened to you, Michelle?
I think we've talked about this when we were going through Onyx Storm. And
Oh, that's right.
Speaking through the bond.
Yeah.
And I would find it so fucking annoying.
No, but in this mind speak, they can only speak
Okay.
to each other if they're speaking directly to each other. Not just like intrinsic thoughts, like directed at you.
Yeah.
Still
I
a
agree.
no?
I think my husband would still ignore me if I'm like, pick up your damn underwear. like
In the mind. What are you sending
right now
down
he's
the
playing
bond?
Oblivion, so he's like, right.
No, that would be super annoying. Maybe if
Yeah,
it could only
I
be
don't-
done in like certain situations, like you could turn it on and off. What if you could turn it on and off?
Well, I mean,
That'd be
so
cool.
Kingfisher does a lot of like dirty talk, right?
Oh, yes, he does.
He has a lot of graphic words. Normal people don't talk like that. So if my husband was talking to me like that, I'd be like, who the fuck are you? Relax. So again, this is a suspended reality where this sounds so great. I love reading this because Kingfisher is, gorgeous and 7-foot whatever fae, not real. So he can say whatever he wants to say, and everyone would eat it out of the palm of his big rough hands.
This is fair.
When we put an average person into that sort of reality, it's like, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't work that way.
I don't know. It depends.
What about you? Yeah.
What if he's like, I did laundry and they're all folded for you neatly and put away?
Yes.
You know what I'm Exactly. It's a different thing. The things you're looking for now.
Yeah, exactly. I would say, yeah, it's different words.
Yeah, I don't want to hear, oh, I'm going to, rub all my
make
scent
sure
all
the
over
entire city can smell all.
Yeah, so that everyone can smell you. Yeah, I'd rather not have that personally. Yeah, I don't know. This is called marked, so there's multiple meanings here. You have the bite piece, you have the quite literally
Scent.
being marked by his scent piece of this. So there's a couple things that are being mentioned here, which is also why I did it the drink of the episode, because we've been waiting a while to get here. And we're finally understanding why Lorreth was so uncomfortable telling Saeris what happens, because it's quite graphic.
Poor
It's very
Lorreth.
enjoyable. It's very euphoric experience. And the poor man is sitting there in a bar, like trying to explain it, like as if you like salt a piece of toast or put some butter on toast or something. And it's literally not describing that. This is not a recipe. This is like very intimate moment. And poor Lorreth. That's all I have to say. So there, obviously, she begs him ultimately in her mind to bite her. And first he's like, no, mine to mine. And finally she's like, bite me, like capital letters, literally capital letters. Tattoos flow at this point. He does bite her. Tattoos flow from Fisher's body onto her own. She says Kingfisher roared as if he was dying. And then she goes, no, as if he was being reborn. Very different distinction here. Like, which is it? And as if he's being reborn.
He's
do you think this is a moment?
Of the ashes.
Yeah. But do you think this is the moment he had like a really true realization that this is a mating situation that he knew? Or was it just good sex?
I think it's a little
Or
bit of
great,
both.
I
I
guess.
mean, both of them have had experiences of our out of body experiences after or with their orgasms. So I'm like, all right, good for the fae, that for you. But also, I mean, I feel like with the first time they had sex, he understood it was a mating thing. When the tattoos first showed up, I think that's when he knew it was a mating thing. But I think because there were still walls up then, that there wasn't this full connection. And now, like, all walls are down. And this isn't just like a primal animalistic type of need. It's like there's another layer there, and it's from both sides. Because I feel like he's been feeling that this is more, but her walls are down too. And he's all in on this. So that's more of because she's accepting it at this point in time. Not so much the tattoos, because he won't tell her what they mean. He literally avoids the conversation, which I like hurts him ultimately. He could have just been honest.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, let's actually have a talk about what those tattoos mean. Not like, let me just briefly describe what they possibly represent.
Yeah,
So,
and also
what do you
too,
think?
I think that there's that moment of vulnerability, which we talked about previously, the previous chapter of what they kind of go through. But you're right. The difference in this intimate moment with them is that they are both truly vulnerable. Kingfisher knows a lot more about her now. They've had these understandings with each other. He knows now she wants to be there. It's so much more because she doesn't know anything about the mating bond. While he knows he's attracted to her because of this stupid fucking bond, he can now be attracted to her because he's genuinely attracted to her for her mind and other elements of this versus just, I know that I'm attracted to her because my animalistic side, to your point, wants her. I'm just my body. Like, why does my body keep wanting her? Now it's my mind. My mind is interested, which brings another level of complexity to hooking up. I mean, ultimately, there's such a difference between, being with someone that you don't have a huge level of depth with. And it doesn't matter how far you go, whatever the basis of whatever you want to call it. But anything from a kiss to a physical touch in any sort of way, there's such a difference between if you really genuinely know them and have a spark connection with them versus kissing someone. And it's like, I'm going to use a Fourth Wing reference when Violet kissed Dane. And she was like, oh, there is absolutely nothing here. I hyped this and then we kissed and nope.
It fell a little flat.
Yes, was not what I was looking for. So I agree with you. There's a difference here. Obviously, we never had that issue between these two. They were always chemistry was always like burning for sure with them. But I think this
Mhm.
is their moment that is the difference between just having the chemistry and feeling that physical attraction to having a much heavier level of depth to this relationship and truly seeing that it could
Yep.
be a relationship versus just a hookup. She wakes up to Onyx snoring and the smell of fresh bread. She sees a droplet of blood on the sheets and she realizes the events of last night. So he had bit her. There's this euphoric experience and she smells bread and coffee. So she thinks to herself, he probably left. Maybe they just left some, he probably left coffee or whatever. And, that was nice of him, but he's not going to be here when I wake up. That was what she was already thinking because she's thinking of how he's already dismissed her so many times before. But that is actually not true. Fisher's waiting for her at the round table by the window. This is where our understanding of Kingfisher in our first read starts to change. We see him stay here, at least for me. This is where the true shift, I already kind of knew that there was more to this because it's Saeris' point of view. And, you're not getting the full story of Kingfisher anyway. So I was kind of already pretty forgiving of him. However, I think this is the true shift for Saeris as well, that this is more than what she thought before. And if you didn't realize that in the previous section marked, then you weren't paying attention because there definitely is something big happening here. And I don't just mean below the waist. Right. So, see, Fisher hadn't packed Saeris any clothes. He packed her a flask, I think, and some swords and knives, and stuff.
Yep.
What are you going to do with that? Saeris is
and a med kit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a med kit. Yeah. Saeris is what did you...
Some underwear and
toothpace.
Toothbrush
a toothbrush
nice.
would be great. And I actually liked that this book reference brushing your teeth because there are so many romantices that I'm like, did we just wake up and make out and nobody brushed their teeth, which actually happens here because this is what happens. They wake up and nobody went to the bathroom before this occurred. And I'm just like, can we not just write that in? Can she just be like, hold on a second, I just want to freshen up?
That's not sexy. Hold on a second, let me freshen up isn't sexy. So
fine.
No one's going to write that in. Suspended reality.
A girl can dream. A girl can dream.
Dream of going pee afterwards so we don't have a UTI? Is that it?
Yeah, I'm just saying. And this isn't the first romantasy series where I've noted that this is a thing. Can we just, so anyway, I was trying to give a compliment here. Okay. I was saying that she's mentioned she wanted a toothbrush. This is a good thing. All I'm saying is, would it hurt to have some more hygiene stuff in romance? Just putting it out there. I mean, I would say that there are definitely scenes in contemporary romance books as well that I'm like, thrillers are also...
That doesn't work.
Yeah. Where we're just not doing... It could be this world. It can be, you have wherever. We're just not going pee and we're not brushing our teeth. I'm just wondering what's happening. Is everybody okay? Right.
All right. So he beckons her to the table. Ultimately, he tells her, fine. And his shadows dress her. He leaves off the underwear, of course, and she has this luxurious black silk camisole and these wide pants, so super comfortable. She reaches for a pastry and then she realizes there are tattoos all over her hand and all over her fingers. And the first thing she says is, "My mother would not have approved of this."
Yeah,
it's really fun. And he didn't laugh.
No.
And he just calmly sips on his coffee and looks at takes her hand and looks at it, and
she remembers from
his
last
time,
night too.
observing.
So it's important. She does remember from last night, and she just is like, okay, these are still here. Whoops, I remember it, but
this is what happens when you don't address things in the
Exactly,
moment. You have to
right.
deal with the consequences the morning after.
Exactly.
That can apply to many different levels. So she speaks it out into his mind, speak. And he responds out loud, and she realizes that the mind speaking last night, that was a real thing. But he clarifies it's not like he can read her mind all the time. It's when she speaks directly to him, in her mind, he can hear it, and vice versa. So
the way I'm they're definitely mated now as a reader.
Right. I don't think that's a casual. I don't think she can't speak to Remphas's mind.
No, and why isn't she more
mind.
freaked out about this? This is my thing.
Right. She's
how
okay.
is she just oh, okay, we can just talk to each other through our minds now. This is fine. What?
Yeah.
Casual.
Yeah, normal, right?
Saeris, girl.
I think, well, with everything, because remember, she's human and she hasn't been in this world for very long. I think she just takes everything like okay, this is probably a normal occurrence. Like this could be a
Yeah, and
normal
she
thing.
says
Because
that
Fisher
too.
doesn't clarify. Right.
No, and she
Fisher
also
doesn't
says that. She's
clarify.
just like, well, ever since the Hall of Mirrors, which was basically when she went through the Quicksilver, you know, this shit's just happening. Everything just keeps happening. So I can't make sense of it because it's not, I'm quite literally not in my world. And I'm just, okay, it's happening. So she does, grain of salt, you know? Yeah. And Fisher's like,
She's like, all
oh,
right,
these are
cool.
alchemist tattoos, you know? That's all. She's like
Right.
alchemist stuff, right? And she points to this large shimmering rune and asks what it means. And he's like, it's difficult. He can't give her a definitive answer yet, what this means. And tells her she doesn't have to keep
And she doesn't
them.
push. She
No.
doesn't push him. She intentionally is like, yeah, I'm not going to
Well,
push
she's
him on
like
it. I'm like,
post coitus
girl.
glow, you know? She's like not in a mood where she wants to like battle him. I'm just saying. She's just like, okay, you know, that's fine. And he's like, well,
Right.
look, don't worry. If you have like a month or so, if you decide that you don't want them, like you can just make a decision and, you know, I can hide them for you and the marks are chosen for you. But if you decide that you don't want to accept them, you know, they'll be gone for good. Kind of like this is something that happens sometimes in this world and that's just what it is. And so she's gone through this so many times now that she's just like, okay, Kingfisher, sure. She still knows though that it can't really be that simple. But she doesn't really press too much. She just changes the subject and is kind of like shifts it towards him. Hey, what do yours mean? And his largest tattoo means sacrifice, which we're totally shocked by. And it's also a foreshadowing that there's going to be more sacrifice on Kingfisher's part and that his story and prophecies of a sort were sacrifice related or sacrificially related. She then asks why she can't take back the bird tattoo. That's what she's talking about. And then he like really apologizes and is like, he can't take it back. But she realizes that what he really means, because he ends up leaving to go say bye to Wendy and says that you have a bath ready for you. So here we go, bathing. Very nice. He says there's a bath for you, and he's going to go say bye to Wendy, who is the woman from the previous chapters that was making the biscuits for him. And after he leaves, she realizes that the bite mark is like right next to where she pointed for meaning the tattoo. He was saying sorry for the bite mark, which was she doesn't regret that at all. So there's like a mixed message that happens right here between them. I wanted to mention that in a future chapters, we find out, of course, that these tattoos all have really specific meanings as they're going through. When I read The Gates parts 1 and 2 and Fisher goes and meets with the gods, that is another section that breaks down how hand selected these two were by the gods. But Kingfisher, we know, met with them way before he meets Saeris. So he knows that they are literally tied to the gods, like there are choices related to them. And it's not just the gods, you know, kind of how Taylana explains it later. It's just like, oh, the gods, like they're fantasy stories. They're not really real. Just like Saeris thought that the Fae were a nightmare story or a fantasy story. Taylana describes, we get these tattoos like because we get them ourselves, because these were the stories that were handed down, but they're mostly like not based in reality. Whereas Kingfisher, this has to be so much more of an anchor of a realization for him of shit. We are quite literally like chosen by the gods, and like these tattoos even are significant of that. So I can only imagine like him waking up that morning. And this is where I'm really hoping that Brimstone has multiple points of view, because I think having Kingfisher's background of all the information he has would have been awesome in some of these too. I would like that, just saying.
Right. And the feelings, because he understands the meaning of the tattoos and he's having to brush it off so lightly. And we know that in the Fae world, in any Fae world, like that's a serious thing. It's not like, oh, I just like you. It's like your souls are literally interconnected. And he's having to brush it off. It's like, you can decline it, you know? So just
the
having
weight of that.
Yeah, that would have been great to read in like a POV chapter.
Like how he was internalizing all his thoughts and probably being really careful about them because he doesn't want to say anything to her on accident, because now they have this mind speak, because he could be like, you should know, like he could be saying something to her and he has to be like really intentional now. Where then I think like, all right, he's 1,800 years old. He's learned by now to be the calm in the storm and try and figure this out. He has had enough time and practice to be ready for this moment. But also he's kind enough to not burden her with that and scare the shit out of her. which I think is also his intent, is he doesn't want to scare her. This is a lot of information. Can you imagine? She just got thrusted into this world. Oh, by the way, like the gods have tied us together, just so you know. I'm sorry, what?
Right. Okay. Chapter 28 is titled Just Ask. And this chapter, like the entire time, even on the first read, I was like, Saeris, just ask the Quicksilver. Just ask it. So the fact where in chapter 28, we're finally getting to it, I'm like, thank God, girl. So
And it has your title. Just ask.
Just ask. Just ask. The beginning of this chapter is literally a list of ingredients that's a fail. So, and then Carrion bursts in to the forge while Saeris is literally hurling glass at the mountainside. So she's just like things. Carrion's like,
She's had enough.
what you doing? And she's like, what does it look like I'm doing? It's like, can I help? Can I join? And, you know, they keep throwing flasks and just destroying things. And he's like, this is fun and all, but like, why? And she's like, in the name of destruction. He's like, all right, I'm here for it. And he's just such a friend. He's like, okay, if you're angry, I'm angry too. And we're going to be angry
He's such
at this
a
together.
Riddick. Yeah. Because he always has like
Right?
really great
He is.
one-liners. And which, I mean, he's different in the sense that we know for sure that Carrion has a massive arc that we're going to hopefully see in Brimstone. But he's just such a great character in this book. And we went from so heavy in chapter 27 to now they're with Carrion, hooray, throwing shit at a mountain. Like, let's do it. You know, just the lightness
He's
of
such a
Carrion
balance.
is nice. Yes, absolutely.
I agree. So the Quicksilver is mocking her because, you know, every time it tries to do something, it literally laughs at her. And he's just like, I don't think so. I don't think it talks. Are you sure you're not crazy?
Yeah, have you lost
You're
your
not
mind?
mad. Right. And she's like, no, I've read books. Like I thought I was, but I've read books. And it says like alchemists, they can hear the Quicksilver. And he's just like, you sure you're not all mad then? And she's like, probably, you know, it's fine. And then he offers up the idea. He's like, you know, have you tried asking it to like meld with the pure silver? And she's like, of course not, because it would be too simple. And he's like, well, can you try? And can I watch so I can tell you that I was right and hold this over you for the rest of eternity? And it's just like, fine.
Literally because he can.
Come with me. Yeah, because he can. Not because I want to see you succeed, but literally he wants to make sure that he is right and prove to her that he is smarter than her.
Of course.
Which is hilarious.
Absolutely.
And then they quickly march down the mountainside into the map room, which
She's
is
like
where
in a huff.
the and she's like, fine, I can't do this now because I don't have enough silver, but I'm going to test out a theory then. So they go into this map room. That's where Danya's sword is in like literal shards everywhere. And Carrion's like hovering because,
of course he is.
You know, that's what he's doing. And she's like, can you like just take a step back? And he
Give
responds,
me some room here.
well, if you like, but he's like, if you have like this out of body experience and you're like going nuts, can I have permission to tackle you? And she's like, fine, just let me do this. He's so annoying. And it's so funny. I was like, okay, just let her do it. So she ends up talking to the shards and she asks them to come out. And the Quicksilver's like, why? Why do you want us to come out? And she responds like, Danya, the warrior who owns you, is angry and she wants, you know, you to be put back together, which the Quicksilver gets angry because they're like, I'm not owned by anything. So she corrects herself and the Quicksilver argues that it doesn't concern itself with like fae and human desires. So basically it's getting sassy with her, saying like, why should I do what you tell me to do? And then Saeris is like, well, let me barter with you. So the Quicksilver asks for music and it will basically music to keep. And I thought this was really interesting. We're going to see like this actually work out in the next chapter, but specifically asks for music to keep for itself. So she barters that they will have someone sing a song for them. She can forge it into a sword. And they want a song from start to finish to keep, you know, clarified, trying to be very specific in their bargaining, because we know the fae, you can't mince words. You have to be very direct in what you want or you don't get what you want. She then asked if the magic can be reawakened if she crafts this sword. And the Quicksilver is like, no, that's a gift undeserved. All warriors only wish to do is kill, which fair. And Saeris is like, no, she says that warriors need to protect and defend, and asks how the wielder of the sword can prove that to the Quicksilver. And the Quicksilver says, we will be forged anew. When you have upheld your end of our bargain, we will taste the blood of one who will carry us. If they are honorable, we will consider allowing the old magics to flow through us again. So essentially, make me into a sword. Whoever like cuts, like whoever blood stains the sword first, and that has to be the wielder, they will see if they're worthy of the wielding the magic of the gods. And one by one, the Quicksilver then started to tremble, work free from the wall. And then Earth, who was just kind of sitting by the fire, offers to help, which scares the shit out of Saeris because she thought it was just her and Carrie in there the whole time. And then she yells at Carrie, and Karen's like, I tried to tell you, but you told me to shut up. And you were kind of rude about it. So, this is what you get.
Not my fault.
And then she's like, Lorreth, what a coincidence. I was just about to go looking to you. When I read this, I'm like, yay, we get to hear him sing.
Yes, because she
We get
knew.
the
She's like,
song.
okay, I know
Yeah.
someone who can sing a song for you, so let's see what we can find. And so that was a really good moment. And plus, I love Lorreth. He's like one of my very favorite characters, and I'm really hoping for book 2 we get a lot more of him.
Agreed.
Chapter 29, Ballad of the Agen Gate. Forge is burning hot. Saeris is starting to smelt Danya's sword perfectly because remember, all the shards have now come together. Lorreth has put them in this container, this like bucket thing, and Saeris has now brought them back to the forge to start putting them together. The Quicksilver was quiet and cooperative with her because it wanted to see what weapons Saeris would create with it. So Saeris has this history, right? This is where we're first getting to see her actually create something beautiful and her have a moment in the forge and do something great, which is really cool. And you get to see that she has been training in a forge since she was 10 years old. So she's going to have an opportunity here to make a beautiful sword here. So the sun's going down. Saeris finds Lorreth again. He's sitting on a rock, throwing a dagger at a dead tree. Karen is cooking something over a fire and scowling that Lorreth is a cheat. So they're waiting for Saeris because Saeris is like, hey, it's going to be a while. It's not like it takes a few minutes to do something like this. She's got to melt everything down. She's got to start working to it and all of this. So it's been hours. Lorreth is a cheat, and Carrion says so. Lorreth is laughing and is like, no, you're just a sore loser. Like, you suck and you just need to face facts, basically. So they had a bet on who could throw the blade at the tree the most times in a row, and Lorreth has not missed, and he's hit the tree 218 times. 218 times. So they've been sitting here for a while. Lorreth claims that he's like, I've never played this before. And he says usually when he's throwing a dagger, it's at a vampire's head, so you cannot miss. So Carrion loses and had to make them food and loses a little bit of money, 11 chits. Saeris agrees that with Lorreth, of course, and that he didn't trick him. Carrion is basically having a taste of his own medicine because he has been doing this type of shit for years in Zilvarin, and specifically to Hayden, her brother. And demands that they just eat and everyone shut up because he doesn't want to hear anymore. Karen's a sore loser. What a surprise.
He can't take it. No. He cannot. And 11 chits, he's like, that's half my money. And Saeris is like, you can't use it here anyways.
Right.
Like, why does it matter? He's like, it's the principle.
Right. Yeah. That's not the point.
He's so mad.
So there's been a reshaping of Danya's sword, and she's taken hours and hours working at this. Evening has turned into night. She's completely exhausted, and so she shapes it one more time. Lorreth comes in to the forge and shows her this wolf head that he's carved out of piece of yew wood at 1 a.m. And it's similar to Fisher's tattoo and the Lupo Pria symbol on their armor. So there's a little bit of a dialogue there. Saeris walks Lorreth through the process of making and casting a mold and just showing him ways to do this around 4 a.m.
Which is first of all, it's disgusting. She literally has to dig for clay and mold it with like horse shit and mold it around the wood so he can to make the cast of it. And he's like, okay, and he's like patiently like just doing what he says. I'm like, cool, you're playing with clay and poop. That's how I like to spend my late mornings.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Look, that's what it is. You really have so many materials here. But we're bathing and brushing our teeth, folks. That's what really matters.
That's all that matters.
Yes. Around 4 a.m. So this is all night. She's working all night at this. She's completely exhausted. Kieran announced that he's going to fall asleep. And so he just falls asleep on the other side of the forge. He's just like, I'm going to bed. I can't wait anymore for this. Kingfisher speaks into Saeris' mind and is like, you need to rest. Like, it's been too long. And she's like, no, I'm almost done. I've been working on this so long. This is fine. I'm finally having something I can do. Finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks, something's finally working. The Quicksilver's actually letting me make something. I'm not just going to stop. This is finally the first opportunity I have where something could work out. Fisher's close
Mhm.
by. She can feel him now, wherever he is. Another indicator, like, hey girl, you can feel him? Hello? Right. She glanced at the shadows by the door and sees his shape. So he's been there for a few hours, but he says he didn't know if she would want him in there. So she invites him in and he stays in the shadows a little bit longer and he moves to a chair by the window. So he and Lorreth are talking quietly and they helped her pour the steel for the wolf's head hilt, which was created, which was basically Lorreth's design that goes into the hilt of the sword now. So he's helped design it at this point and helps pour the steel into there. She wraps the hilt with the glittering black and gold cord. And then she's like, I'm done. This is it. Along with the wolf's head pommel, the hilt is decorated with trailing vines and are wound around that and the guard. So down the center of the blade is engraved, by righteous hands, deliverance of the unrighteous dead, is what it says across the sword's length. As Lorreth is holding the sword, the Quicksilver speaks, and obviously Saeris is the only one who can hear this, and it says, it is time, give us our song. Outside, Aurora lights up the sky. So I'm thinking Aurora Borealis, right? The lights. And it hasn't been seen in over 1,000 years. So this is a really big indicator of a crucial moment that's happening. And Lorreth is on the edge of tears here, and he lays the sword across his lap and sing a song of the Agen Gate. This is really important for a couple of reasons. First, it's very deeply emotional because Lorreth has been fighting in this situation now for 110 years, and they all know, Kingfisher especially, and everyone in the room, but really Lorreth as well, it's bleak. It's not going well. Things are not going well. It's not a good time. And he wrote a song hundreds of years ago. Actually, do you know how long it was when the Agen Gate happened before? Hundreds of years ago now at this point, Lorreth and Fisher fought side by side in what we know as the Gate Parts 1 and 2, which is Agen Gate, where we know the story of what happened. I'm not going to go through line by line of Lorreth's song, but I think it's really important to read the words of this and know that in a first read, if you haven't read the bonus chapters, this is your first indication of who Kingfisher is and his backstory and what the Lupa Praelia are and what has happened. And we know that Saeris at this point has heard multiple times at different bars, things like that, of Kingfisher and all this, but we don't know where Kingfisher of the Agen Gate comes from. This is where we first find out where this comes from. And you get an immediate understanding for Saeris's perspective, the level of depth and gratitude that his fellow warriors alongside Kingfisher and wolves, in this case of Lorreth, have for him. It's a very moving song. There's a couple people on social media that have made versions of this song. So if you go out and want to listen to any of them, they do exist. It's a couple pages long. It's in depth, and it's important to move the sword forward, get an understanding of how much Lorreth has a love for the time he spent with Kingfisher and his gratitude. And it's a beautiful song. So beautiful, in fact, that the Quicksilver agrees, but Kingfisher doesn't. He tenses at the song. He doesn't like the idea of this ballad being told. He doesn't agree with horrific sacrifice. He's kind of just doing his job, but that's very Kingfisher. It's classic Kingfisher at this point. Once the song ends, Carrion's outraged that Lorreth can also sing. Like, not only can he like be
like,
a
of
great
course,
badass
one more
warrior,
thing.
yeah, not only can he be a badass warrior, not only can he like whittle really cool things out of wood, not only can he, be this like really super nice guy and like calm, like not a dick when he wins and not shove it in his face. He's just like all the things. Carrion's just like, oh, great. Like, you can also sing. Of course you can. Like, of course you can. It's so bitter.
So the Quicksilver says, we've made a decision. And Fisher and Lorreth's spines straighten because they both heard the Quicksilver talk, which Saeris is like, okay, Fisher can hear the Quicksilver, so that's fine. But Lorreth can't. So why is Lorreth responding? And is arguing that the sword should consider the one whose blood who would wield it. Being Dawn, she thought, wait, give it to Danya. But then she remembers that when Lorreth first grabs the sword, he actually looks at it and like his finger against the blade
to see how sharp it is. It pricks
and
him.
cuts it like immediately. And he's like, man, you can just look at it and it'll cut you. And then she realizes, like, oh shit, Lorreth bled on it first. And Lorreth is like, no, I'm sorry, this isn't my sword. I don't want it. And Fisher's like, don't give it to me. I don't want to touch it. And because he doesn't mean to claim Danya's sword, and he's like, I'm perfectly happy using the daggers. I don't want you. And then the Quicksilver says, not Danya's sword. The Quicksilver hissed, we are reforged, new into this place. You do not claim us, Lorreth of the Broken Spires. We claim you.
What do you think that means,
So
Lorreth of the Broken Spires?
So because he's Fisher of the Gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a big, like, pivotal moment for him.
Right.
So the Broken Spires must be like some pivotal battle. We just haven't seen this battle yet because, I mean, he's been a part of the Lupo Pirelio for 400 years. So he's probably had some badass battles where he's led and like defended a lot of people. So I'm sure that's like just his like key moment. And maybe we will see that, like, what this is, because it's just kind of said in passing. So, but it's important that the Quicksilver is like, we claim you. Like, you are ours. You have no say in this. And Fisher essentially is like, well,
that's
gonna be funny. She's gonna have to get over it. She doesn't have a choice. And since Lorreth has been a member of the Lupo Pirelio for 400 years without a god sword, it's her turn to not have a sword, which Danya is going to be pissed because that was her family's relic. And that was something that was handed down to her. And now it just is like, nope.
I mean, it's all her fault anyway. So
right, if she wasn't
fault.
it wouldn't have happened. And
be a bitch.
She
and
wasn't
these
deemed
things
worthy to
happen.
hold and she wasn't deemed worthy to hold the magic, which we actually hear. You know, Lorreth is deemed worthy, and Saeris is like, you deserve it. You carved the pommel. You helped cast it. You sang the song that sealed the bargain. And Lorreth, Fisher, and Carrie are like, what song? And Lorreth is like, well, I was going to write a song about the Agen Gate. And Fisher's like, don't you dare write anything about that. And this is when the Quicksilver is like, oh, yeah, we kept the song. It's ours. So they literally took it out of everyone's memory. And it's now only theirs to keep and to sing on repeat.
And Saeris is the only one who remembers that they sang a song. Not Carrion, not Lorreth, not Kingfisher, just Saeris, because she's the alchemist. She's the only one who remembers this.
Right.
And now she's suddenly overwhelmed, like, how many things am I gonna give up now?
Secrets,
like, how am I gonna do this? Because now I have to make 15,000 of these things, and this is the cost. So the Quicksilver asks to be named, so Lorreth has to name this god sword. And remember, this has been so long since there's been a god sword that has magic again. So this is a huge deal. It's a huge turning point. It's a huge indicator of Saeris' power and of what she's going to be able to do. It's hope. It's quite literally hope. He names the sword Avisieth, which is the unsung song Redemption's Dawn. A blue flame, once it gets named, ripples down the blade, sealing runes into the metal. And a bright white light is shot straight into the air. Fisher shouts in joy towards the heaven, saying, "Angel's breath, brother. Fucking angel's breath." And Saeris at this point is like, the what?
The chapter just ends on angel's breath. We've never had reference to that. I'm like, is this a praise? Or is this
no?
Is
the way I was like,
did I
yeah. No, but also like the way I was like, did I miss something obvious here? Like, what is going on? No, it's just like an abrupt. Okay, great.
We accept that. Yep, angel's breath. But, yeah. Chapter 30 is titled "Swear It," and this is immediately after the spire of angel's breath, and the camp is in chaos because everyone has seen the column of angel's breath illuminating the sky. So this is where we understand, like, that's literally what the term is of the power going from the sword to the sky, because it's the heavens. And Fisher told Lorreth to get some sleep until he gets him this evening. And Carrion was just like, I'm just going to fall asleep here. I don't feel like coming down the mountain. So he's up in the forge taking a nap. And Fisher tells Saeris to sleep in his bed. He's going to go talk to Ren first, but he'll join her later. But first she needs a bath because she spent 15 hours in the forge and probably smells disgusting. So here we have her bath again. I mean, hygiene's important.
Didn't she have horse shit on her, right?
Yep, on her hands. Yeah. Yep.
Love that.
And so she gets into the tub, and Fisher like helps her undress and lowers her in, and he kneels at the tub and like watches her for a little bit, and they touch hands, and she comments on how like this is such like an intimate of like their hands like holding, and it's more in depth than, you know, they've literally slept together twice, but this is more intimate than those. And he says, I was wrong, you know, you are a good thief. I was like, oh, she
So
stole
sweet.
his heart.
Yeah.
It's so sweet. And then, she's like, what have I stolen? He's just like, just go get some sleep. The water's going to stay warm. And she literally falls asleep in the tub. And I get being exhausted, but I don't think I can fall asleep in a bathtub.
I don't
Maybe if like the
know.
water is like enchanted and warm, but like, I'm
It
like, I
I mean,
don't.
it says that it is, but that's also like falling asleep in a
Yeah,
hot tub, and I'm not doing that ever.
no.
But hey, it's a
But your girl
magical
was
world. We're
tired.
gonna let it happen. Yes.
Exactly. At
We're
least
gonna
she's
forgive
clean.
it.
At least she's clean.
Correct. We're using hygiene. We're
And
happy. Yes.
so Saeris wakes up and Fisher's like washing her hair and she's like, I've never had someone wash my hair before. This is intimate. I can get used to this as long as it's only Fisher that is washing my hair. And then she goes to sleep again. Then she wakes up again as Fisher's lifting her out of the tub. He dressed her and then they fall asleep together. And then she wakes up a third time. Her stomach is growling, but she wanted to stay in the warmth as they're wrapped up in an embrace, and she wants to savor the moment, and she does so for 30 minutes because, the day isn't promised to them. And she says, even though I have to go to the bathroom, there, because she just woke up, so she has to pee. You go. She's like, I want to stay here. She reflects on how she's astonished at herself. She's like, I literally a task. I got to bargain with the Quicksilver. And then she realizes, she's like, wait, I bargained with the Quicksilver. Fisher has Quicksilver in his eye. Let me try to speak to it. And she reaches out to the Quicksilver and she starts hearing the chanting, the Anrath more. And she comments like, oh my God, this is what he hears all day, every day. Like, no wonder why
Really,
I'd
really
be
sus.
pissed all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when she spoke, like she just said hello, it immediately stopped and started listening to her. And she introduced herself to the Quicksilver, and it says, we know who she is, the Quicksilver hissed. She is the dawn, she's the moon, she's the sky, she's oxygen in her lungs. And like this is the first moment of understanding that his Quicksilver is intertwined with like him and his being, because that's how he feels about her.
Right.
And she's just like, that's kind of weird, but okay. And she tells this Quicksilver, I'm alone. Like, I can take you out. And ultimately, the Quicksilver can't. They're a part of each other. When he went into the pool, when he was just a boy, he shouldn't have lived. And they both agreed. The fates, the Quicksilver saw the fates and what the fates wanted of him. And they agreed that in order for him to survive the Quicksilver pool, it would have to bond with him. And since Kingfisher is a weapon, the ultimate weapon, technically, it can bond with him because that's, sure, it's a magical realm. And it doesn't go the way he wants, obviously, because she thinks, I had one win today, I can have another one, and I can save him too. And it doesn't work out that way.
No, and it's interesting here though that the Quicksilver specifically says too that they won't leave him because they'll all die. Like they can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying, which goes to his ability in, again, the Gates part 1 and 2. I keep going back to this. Those 2 bonus chapters, prequel chapters, really give you so much more about the Quicksilver and how it able to use his body and push his body beyond what would be physically possible of him without it. Saeris doesn't know this, of course, but Kingfisher does. He understands that.
Because of, like, the Quicksilver knows what the gods want from him and what his fate is, so they're going to push and protect him to make sure that he reaches his destiny. And the Quicksilver does know that Saeris is also his destiny as well, which is why, they have that comment. The Quicksilver ultimately wanted Saeris to understand, like, hey, this is a bargain. Like, we agreed upon this. We are not here against his will, and we have to live together, ultimately. Like, there's no reforging. This is life. This is how it has to be. And she, like, gets emotional, she's like, her eyes are watering. And Fisher brushes her cheek and whispers that, I assume that didn't work out the way you planned. And he could hear the Quicksilver responding to her, even though he couldn't hear what she was saying, and assumed, what their conversation was. And he wasn't angry, but now she knows it's part of him, and without it, he'll die. And then Ren bursts in, because, of course, can't have like this little intimate moment. And he declares the horde is at the banks again, but it's like, it's only like 1,000 of them. It's basically just to show face. So I'm not super worried, but we need you out there. The Saeris could hear like the banging, the booms from the icebreakers. So they're already working on the ice. And Red has a conversation saying like, Saeris, you need to stay. Saeris is like, no, I don't want to stay. the only way Saeris is going to stay in the tent is if Fisher uses the oath to like make her stay. And going back a couple of chapters, she tells him when they're in Ballard in the bed, if you ever use the oath against my will, I will make your life a living hell. Well, he's like, would you go to college? She said no. So he's like, okay, well, you have to agree to be with me the entire time. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide. And she makes her own oath, like saying like that she agrees. So this is where Fisher retrieves Solus, which is her father's blade. It was tarnished silver, but not dulled. A crescent moon embellished the pommel, and there's script in Old Fae that float around the hilt. And Fisher presents the sword to Sarah, and he says, my father's bones rest somewhere in Zolvar. The sword spent the past millennia there, which, he paused, considering the sword, makes it more Zaval than Evelian now, I think. And like gives her the sword. And she like feels so overwhelmed here, and Ren is like, yeah, about time. This is where Saeris comes in. And what do you think? So he says, my father's bones rest somewhere in Zolvarin, meaning he thinks his father's dead, for sure. Like, not he's out there wandering.
That's a good question. I think, too, it's worth considering the point where, right before this, where he says, if she were to come, she stay by him? And this is the name of the chapter because he tells her to swear it. And so she does. She swears it. The quote, my father's bones rest somewhere in Zolvarin. Again, somewhere in Zolvarin. So yeah, he has his dad's sword. He's saying somewhere in Zolvarin. Does that mean he knows for sure that his dad is dead? Maybe. It's still not clear enough. I still think that there's some gray there that we can't for sure rule out entirely just because another character has said, oh, he's dead. We don't have a body. We don't have bones. We do have a sword, though, which is not a great indicator of what's gone on. So there could be other reasons why, but it is weird to me that he's saying it makes it more Zilvarin than Yevelian now. Because it's saying his sword spent the past millennia there. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't think this 100% means that he's dead. He doesn't say he's dead somewhere, but I mean, bones would indicate that, but you can still be a bag of bones and be alive. So, and I just think just because that's where the location has been for so long, that's why he's saying like it's more Zilvarin. And since Saeris is Zilvarin, there's more of a connection there. So she should hold the god sword. So I think that's why he's giving it to her. Plus, it's like his father. He loves and respects his father so much. So that's like just giving a big piece of himself to her as well.
Yeah, symbolic for sure.
Right. And so when they were ready to go, Fisher and Ren have like this saying, which I assume this is probably said a lot of times before battle. And Fisher says, be unrelenting and unmerciful in the face of the wicked dead. And then Ren replied, and if you should find soul sunder from flesh, order a drink for us at the first tavern you come across in the afterlife. We'll settle the tab when we get there.
Yeah.
And that's how the chapter
ends. It's a great
ends.
quote. And that brings us, folks, to our mystery Q&A. It's time for mystery Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking. So,
all right. So if looking at your life, how would you know that you've made it?
Like, what do I define as success?
Yeah, basically, like you've had a successful life. You've like reached the American dream ultimately. Like, how would you define that in your life? Or what would you see in your life if you've reached your American dream?
I think reaching the American dream and what I define as success are two different things.
Okay.
I don't know that.
So what do you define?
For me, it's tough. At this point now, it's like I just want my son to be set up. I want to be able to set his life up to be better and easier. And I want to be able to be a part of it as long as I possibly can. And I want my husband to be able to be a part of it as long as I can. It's not even really about me anymore. It is like what I want to do and what I want to do to be successful and what I want to drive for. All those things matter. Obviously, we have a podcast about books. So like that to me is important. But to show him that he can do anything. That's a factor. A driver for me is me being successful at not saying no to opportunities and going for them. It's a factor of trying to also be a good parent to my son and show him that he can go and do things that are scary, go do things that are creative, go and do things that are things that people have said, like, why are you doing that? You're not going to be successful at that. Nobody's successful at that. You know how hard that is, and doing it anyway. So I guess that's kind of my definition of success is not allowing someone else to dictate what that word means for you, and that it's very, very individual. Yeah, I think that sums it up. What about you?
Mine, if I were to look at my life and think like, wow, I've made it, I would be basically being able to be as present as possible with my kid, working my ass off in a job that I hate and having a big bank account is technically success. The wealth in life is being with your family. How I see it, and being able to cherish all those moments, and also being able to set her up, and because she's gonna face so much shit in the world just for being a
Right.
girl. So setting her with life skills, courage is a big one. Being able to be as present as possible in her life, and in her future life. So yeah, pretty similar, I would say.
Yeah, I think we said the same thing, just different ways. But I think they ultimately have the same meaning, which is it's
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Since we had a spicy episode this episode, I thought I would ask you, what's the most awkward or best, you can decide which choice you want to go with, pillow talk you've ever heard?
Oh, like with someone that I was with,
I mean,
or like I read in a book.
This is personal to you, so I'm gonna say not that you read it in a book.
I don't know. I am
And it
not
doesn't
like
have
a
to be
pillow
like
talk person.
bedroom talk. It can be like a pickup
Right.
line. You know what I mean? Like something somebody said to
Okay.
you, where you're just like, gave you the ick.
Basically anyone I've dated before my husband. Can I just say that everything is
I didn't know if there was like something that
Oh.
like stuck out where you're just like, oh my God, no, absolutely not.
I can't remember like a specific like line.
Okay, that's fair.
But I do remember talking to someone, and this was when I was in between relationships, still in college, and he couldn't text properly. This is like such my English major coming out, but he had like improper sentences and wasn't spelling things correctly. And I'm just like, he was attractive. I was like, but you're such an idiot. I couldn't get past that.
Sometimes
I really
it's
couldn't.
like that though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I need punctuation. I mean, you don't always have to put the period at the end, but I need you at least spell things properly. We have autocorrect for a reason.
Oh,
You're like
boy.
fighting the autocorrect at this point. So yeah, that's a big ick for me, I would say.
Okay, everyone has their things. That's fair.
Yep. What about you?
Mine would be like I've had people try pet names before they knew me well enough to use one, like a
Okay.
sweetie or something like that, like as part of like, I just met you, like you don't know me like that. Yeah, like cringe. Or like if somebody tries to pick you up at the bar and they like say something like that to you, like, sweetie, let me get you sweetie's not specific. It could be like any pet name.
Yeah.
And using that to like get you a drink, I'm immediately like grossed out.
Yeah.
And also like
Basically anyone at a club grossed out, all the guys picking up, because it's never the attractive, wealthy ones that are offering to buy you a drink. It's the fives. And, they're usually like, I'm really tall too. And like when you go out in the club, you're wearing heels and they're usually like 5'2". I'm like, who are you? Like,
which we love. We love a short guy.
We love our short king. We love our short king.
That's not
or
it.
something else.
It's the way in which we go about it, friend. It's the way.
It is.
We don't just walk up and, I don't even know if these kids dance anymore. I'll be honest. I don't know if there's dancing going on at the club anymore because now you can have your phone out all the time. Like, I don't know if that's a thing. But dare I say, back in the day, we used to be doing a lot of dancing, and that was a whole thing where you'd like look back and be like, look at your friend. Like, what do we got going on here? Like, who's behind me? 'Cause they're trying to dance and you have no idea. And you're like in the dark looking like, what? And they were never good looking, almost never. Almost every time your friends are like, no,
Yeah.
they're doing that quick head
Abort
shake thing.
mission. Abort mission.
You're like trying to figure out a way to get out of the situation. You're like, how do I?
No, you
Oh
just
my
run.
God.
I just ran at that point. It was not
No, you say you have to go to the bathroom
I don't know you.
or like something. You just like
I didn't
walk
even
away.
make I just walk away.
Yeah.
I don't
You're
owe you
just like,
anything at that
no.
point.
Yeah, like we haven't even spoken with words. Like, no.
No, I just
Yeah.
feel you on my body and now it's awkward.
Yeah.
So, all right. Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next in Book Club After Dark.
Yeah, next week we're going to dive into chapters 31 through 35 of Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So hit that subscribe button to hear more of our exciting book talk. And we look forward to continuing to dissect this novel with you.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Quicksilver or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
And also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out some of our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.